like to call the Monday, September 20th, 2021 Orange Board of Education meeting to order at 7:13. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Vitale, would you be kind enough to read the mission statement?
The Orange Elementary School District recognizes that the education of each child is the shared responsibility of every member of our community. Our goal is to inspire and empower each student to achieve academic excellence, embrace social and individual responsibility, and lead with integrity. We believe all individuals should be valued and treated with respect. Together, we will make a difference.
Thank you very much. Obviously, I would assume you're all here for public participation. Is that correct? Most of you? Okay. Public participation does not allow for a two-way conversation between the board and the participants. We thank you for expressing your thoughts and opinions. All comments will be taken into consideration. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Who would like to be first? By all means, could you just go up to the podium, sign your name and your address, and then state it?
I did that already.
Oh, okay, thank you. All set, Mary, with that? Okay, so just state it for OGAT, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ellis Palacha. I live at 419 Orange Center Road. I would like to thank everyone who is on the board for all the time and effort that you put into this. I don't know where each one of you stands concerning the mask mandate, but I am absolutely against it. And I'm absolutely against it for several reasons. Masks do not prevent the transmission of COVID-19. A randomized controlled study of 4,862 adult participants from Denmark, known as the Danish study, found that surgical masks do not reduce COVID-19 transmission. However, studies have shown prolonged mask use is detrimental to our children's psychological and physiological health. According to a recent analysis from the University of Florida, it revealed that most masks worn by children were contaminated with parasites, fungi, and bacteria. And according to Stanford professor Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, masking children is both medically unnecessary and developmentally inappropriate. But what I really want to share with you are my children's personal experiences. Prior to the mask mandate, my children were eager to share their positive experiences that they had in the Orange School District. But now they race off the bus just wanting to take a deep breath of fresh air. And the experiences they now share revolve around mask breaks, headaches, and self-appointed pair mask patrols. So my question to you is, are you going to continue to enforce a mask mandate that lacks a well-grounded scientific justification and continue to ignore the well-documented harmful physiological and psychological effects to our children? Thank you.
Do we have another speaker? Please step up.
Good evening. It's really great to see so many parents here. My name is Karen Karamis. I live on Timberlane Drive in Orange. 25 years ago, I was here as an advocate for the Orange school system. And most times I'd be the only person from the public in the audience. So I really appreciate so many parents being here on such an important issue of masks. And I printed out a study, and I want to share it with the board. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I only have 2 minutes. But basically, it reiterates study after study after study over many years shows that masks are harmful to children. Carbon dioxide levels increase within 3 minutes at very dangerous levels. And, you know, just this morning, I watched a video of a little boy who was probably between 1 and 2 years old. The daycare worker was putting the mask on him. He's trying to take it off. She puts it back on, take it off, put it on. So, I mean, can you imagine the psychological harm being done to this little child? And, you know, how is it conducive to children? It's so counterproductive to spend all of the time. Can you imagine teachers trying to teach? And, oh, little Johnny, you know, cover your nose. It's the mask's not on right. You know, so I really ask that we consider using some common sense and applying it for the sake of these children. Thank you.
Ma'am, did you say you had copies?
I have one copy here, and I can email it because it has several links that are really useful.
Okay, would you do that, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please?
My name's Darlene Sanner. I have 4 children here in the Orange school system. One's in Amity Middle, 2 are in Peck Place, and 1 is in MLT. I'm completely against the mask mandate. It's been a source of extreme stress in our household, and I've had children in tears. We all know the facts, and I mean, we can go back and forth, but they're not doing anything to prevent COVID. And they are psychologically affecting my children. It's been since last year. I have one of my children in bed at night crying, telling me, "Mommy, I keep thinking the mask is on my face and I keep trying to rip it off." My son's in bed at night doing this. My other son comes home from middle school and he said, "Mom, the headache is getting worse. I can't wear the mask all day. The headache's getting worse." He comes home with a massive headache. My kindergartner is pulls her mask down under her nose and says, "Mommy, my teacher keeps telling me, pull the mask up, Leah, pull the mask up." And I said, "Well, did you tell your teacher that you can't breathe?" And she said, "No." I said, "You need to tell your teacher you can't breathe." I get an email from the teacher. "Can I work on proper mask wearing at home?" I'm not really sure if I should tell my daughter, "Leah, it's okay when you can't breathe, pull the mask up." I'm not okay with this. And I think we need to look at the facts, and we really need to be sympathetic. We're parents. I mean, these children are our little human beings, and I'm tired of watching my kids walk around like robots with their faces covered. Not to mention the developmental, lacking of them seeing expressions and learning. We're humans. That's how we learn. That's how we connect. You guys are just taking it all away from our kids, and it's really upsetting. And to have no rights as a parent, I think that it should be optional. If a parent wants their child to wear them, fine. If they don't, then we should have the right. Thank you.
Next?
How you doing? I'm Joseph Alicki. I have 3 children in the school system as well, all at Peck Place now. And I'm going to start off with a couple of questions because I'm totally against this mask stuff too. So if masks work, why do you quarantine the classrooms if they work? Okay, I want to see that question get answered, okay? So the next thing is, if everybody wants to keep telling me that, oh, we get many phone calls where parents don't want their kids to go to school with masks. Oh, we get phone calls with parents that do want their kids to wear a mask. Well, right then and there, it's a choice, right? That's America. We're supposed to be given the choice. So if you want to wear a mask, you want to send your kids to school with a mask, you go right ahead and do it, okay? So now, the other thing is, all the data that everybody wants to spew, you're not showing us any of the data where masks work. We haven't seen any of it. Second, it's not a school policy. It's not in the handbook. Why are you forcing my children to wear them, right? The other thing is the CDC and the local health department, they don't write the rules. They do not make the laws. They do not tell us what to do. Why are we listening to them? They could recommend all they want. We do not have to do what they recommend. It's called a recommendation. The next thing that we also need to know is when a governor writes an executive order, it's not a law. It's not, it's just a proclamation. It's a general policy. And what the purpose of that is to do is to persuade and encourage his policy. Well, you know, we don't have to follow that as citizens. That's not on us. That's on the governing officials have to follow that, not us. So, you know, and again, I'm going to say this. You come in here all with your masks on. You sit down with your mask on. You pull that mask off to speak into a microphone. You just defeated the purpose of wearing that mask in here. Drink that bottle of water. Put that bottle down. Leave that mask hanging off your face as it is. You just defeated the purpose of wearing them. So my concern is with my children. Like that's actually my sister right there that spoke about it. My children do the same thing. They do not want to wake up and go to school in the morning. They can't stand it. Daddy, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do it. I hate wearing the mask. Yet they're forced to wear it. You know, my children are Americans, and they should be left with a choice. Nobody should be telling them what to do and how to do it, only me. So if I don't believe in wearing a mask, my children should not be wearing them. Thank you.
Anyone else? I would say this, if no one else, I understand there's, I believe, 15 people here. You're all here to support the no mask idea, correct? If anyone has something else to offer, otherwise, your point is well taken and noted.
Respect, I wouldn't want to have that comment be misconstrued as a, look, we've already heard it from one or two, we don't want to hear it from anybody else.
Oh, no, that's not what I was saying.
I didn't think so, thanks.
I'm asking, this will be the third time I'm asking, is there anyone else that wants to speak? Okay. Any other subject for public participation? Okay, so we will move on. I appreciate you all coming in. Thank you very much. We'll have a discussion. Thank you. All right, moving on. Consent agenda. Oh, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't wish. Consent agenda. I will need a motion to accept the items under the consent agenda. The items are the regular session minutes from the August 16th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the June 21st, 2021 Board of Education meeting? Susan? Betty, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? You have that, Mary? Jeff? Yep, okay. I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes from the August 19th, 2021 special session Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Vitale? Betty? Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? All set, Mary? All right, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Scarpetti?
Good evening, board members. About 3 weeks ago, believe it or not, it was the first day of school. And overall, the beginning of the year was off to a great start. All our schools have already had their open houses. And as in years past, the first few days, schools had to get back into the routines, and the bus routes did the same. We are fortunate that any member of the Orange school community who contracted the virus this year did not impact or cause an entire class to be quarantined. If that becomes the case, we are ready to serve our students virtually. As a reminder, virtual learning will be provided only when the entire class is quarantined. Otherwise, individual students who need to be quarantined will be assigned classwork, and will be someone who will check in as needed. In addition, we are continuing to post our COVID-19 dashboard on the district's website, and any member of our school community who is either quarantining due to either contacting the virus or was a close contact. This dashboard is updated every Friday. Last year, parents did a fantastic job keeping the children home when they exhibited any symptoms related to the virus. We kindly ask our parents to remind and be vigilant and continue to do the same this year. That said, we are slowly transitioning to structures of the school prior to the pandemic. For examples, as we stated in the past, specialists, now students are able to attend class in their specialist rooms. We are rotating schedules for students to eat in the cafeteria. And it was also nice to see this occurring in the town by having the Orange County Fair this past weekend. It was a beautiful weekend and great to see families enjoying the day this past weekend. The district is also addressing the requirements of the Governor's Executive Order 13G, which requires that all Board of Ed employees to be vaccinated. Otherwise, they'll have to receive weekly testing. Out of the responses we received from the survey sent to all staff, approximately 94% of our staff are vaccinated. The remaining staff will have to submit their weekly test results to their school nurse. If you are a substitute, again, when I reference a substitute, that's someone who may rotate throughout the district, they will have to send the results to the nurse supervisor. We are currently receiving updated information regarding the administrative management of collecting this information and hope to get additional guidance at tomorrow's meeting with the state and DPH. Currently, the negotiation committee has been extremely busy with forward bargaining groups for negotiations. That includes teachers, administrative assistants, paras, security, and custodians. We have a tentative agreement with the custodians, which we will discuss in executive session. In a typical year, this is the time when we present a facility update. In a moment, Mr. Gray will share the work that has been done over the summer. And as discussed in the past, we continue to focus on the safety and well-being of our students, especially with regards to the ventilation systems. In addition, Dr. Russo will update the board on the September 15th curriculum Wednesday and the latest update from the PDAC committee. And that ends my report, Mr. Kraut.
Questions for Dr. Scarpetti? Thank you, Doctor. Oh, I'm sorry, Betty has one?
No, I just want to say I'm delighted to hear that the opening of school was a successful one and students are all back in the building.
Dr. Scarpetti? Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Gray?
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with the finance and operations update. I'll begin with the ESSER 2 and 3 grants. ESSER stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. To date, the Orange District was allotted or allocated $164,000 for ESSER 2, and we have expended $6,000 so far in teacher training. American Rescue Plan, or ARP ESSER, also known as ESSER 3, Orange was allocated $325,952, and to date, approximately $94,000 has been spent to fund our 2021 summer school program. As a reminder, the funds from both of these grants are used to address learning loss among students, purchasing educational technology, providing mental health services and supports, school facility repairs and improvements to reduce the risk of the virus transmission, or to improve indoor air quality, as well as other activities necessary to maintain the operation and continuity of services in the district. As mentioned in previous meetings, 20% or approximately $65,000 out of the ESSER 3 money must be dedicated to learning loss via evidence-based intervention and address the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on underrepresented student subgroups. And we will continue to update you on those grants as the year progresses. We're currently putting together, believe it or not, the 2022-2023 budget timeline. The budget letters will be going out to department heads at the end of September, and we will be in the thick of the budget process soon. An audit update, the 2021 educational financial system and special education excess cost grant data were certified and filed prior to the statutory deadline of September 1st. Stewart and Mondi, our third-party auditors, will perform the agreed-upon procedure audit of these data collections, which is due on January 3rd, 2022. Food services. The U.S. Department of Agriculture released a national waiver to allow the seamless summer option once again this year, and that goes until the end of this 2021-22 school year. It continues free lunch for all children in Orange, age 18 or younger, during the school year. So any student who hasn't previously taken advantage of the free lunch might want to do so. We also were recently made aware of the Emergency Operational Cost Reimbursement Program, or the EOCRP, which was set up in August of 2021 to partially compensate districts for cafeteria revenues that declined at the beginning of the pandemic between the months of March and June of 2020. There's no application necessary. Rather, the reimbursement amounts for districts are calculated using a statutory formula. The reimbursement amount for Orange is estimated to be around approximately $15,000. We should have a solid number for our next meeting. That concludes the finance and operations portion of my presentation.
Go ahead, Betty.
Mike, I was reviewing the summary statement for the month of August, and I think we had talked about it in the past, and that is it possible to separate repairs and maintenance into two different categories so we can see what is ongoing maintenance to keep our buildings healthy and what are repairs to remediate things that have gone wrong?
We can do that. You're welcome.
Anyone else for Mr. Gray? Okay, Mike, you want to give the buildings and grounds?
Sure.
Thank you.
So this presentation is an update on facilities and what has been done in two parts, what's been done to prepare school for opening. The past 2 years, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we did not have this opportunity last year to present buildings and grounds updates, facilities updates, and then the second part of this will be just that, what we've done around our buildings and grounds in the areas of safety and repair. So first, I'd just like to recognize our staff that go above and beyond behind the scenes every day to keep our buildings safe and healthy. We have an AM custodian and a PM custodian in each of our buildings. At Peck, Mary L. Tracy School, we have Dean Manley and James Walker. At Peck Place School, we have Joe Spargo and Christopher Polimas. At Racebrook School, we have Steve Szymanski and Jeff Skoronsky. And Turkey Hill School, we have Kathy Manley and Sean Murray. In addition, we have a supervisor of maintenance and custodians, Joe Mateus. I just want to thank them for all the work they've been doing during this pandemic, keeping our buildings clean. There are several goals that guide the work that the facilities and maintenance department do. The first goal is obviously to maintain a safe, clean learning environment for our students, our staff, and our visitors. We also want to be sure we're using our resources effectively and efficiently. We want to establish an effective preventative maintenance program. And finally, develop capital plan needs as we move forward. We've also established the following priorities for Facilities Department response to requested work. Emergency obviously tops the list. This might be an urgent safety situation or a disruption that could cause a closure to school, a water leak being one. Probably don't want to go there, but a water leak could be something that we would deem as an emergency. Safety, identify deficiencies on the building grounds that could cause an injury if they are not addressed in a timely fashion. Preventive maintenance, the scheduled inspections, routine tasks that reduce the incidence of system or equipment failure. Reactive maintenance, which is repairing systems, equipment or a building component that's not functioning properly, hence the need for a robust preventive maintenance plan to reduce the amount of reactive maintenance we have to perform. And then finally, event support at our schools, supporting school functions, PTAs, PTOs, and their functions. So moving on to reopening our schools, in the past 2 years, one of the things we did back in the summer of 2020 was address our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, otherwise known as HVAC. We had the ductwork in each of our buildings cleaned and vacuumed prior to the start of the 1920 school year. There are some pictures that just show how that was done. We worked with a vendor to conduct site surveys of all of our mechanical systems and controls in the buildings. We also aligned our mechanical schedule to the guidelines in the Adapt, Advance, Achieve document, as well as guidance from the Department of Public Health, referred to as the COVID protocol. So in our buildings, the mechanical systems come on 2 hours prior to occupancy, which is about 5 a.m. in the morning, and they run until 2 hours past occupancy, which is about 11 p.m., and it's continually flushing out the air in the classrooms. We're also able to install new rooftop units on 2 of our schools. We installed 1 unit at Turkey Hill School, and that is above our library steam room there, and 2 units at Racebrook School, 1 above the main office and 1 above the library space, and these were done using capital funds from the town. As mentioned in many previous facility updates, we continue to change our HVAC filters throughout the district every 3 months. You've probably heard me mention Univent air handler, rooftop unit. I just wanted to provide some examples of what those look like, so every time I say that, you're not wondering what that is. The one that's in every classroom just about in district is a univentilator, so that's bringing in our heating, our fresh air. In the instance of Peck Place School, it also provides cooling. Turkey Hill and Racebrook do not have cooling in their units. And Mary L. Tracy uses a different system than the unit ventilators. They're a little bit different than that, but it is similar, but it's a built-in. And we do change all of the filters in all of these types of units 3 times every 3 months. We continue to purchase PPE, mostly masks, alcohol wipes, and hand sanitizer for each of the schools on a regular basis. We also supply our buses with child-sized masks for use if a child forgets their mask, when a mask breaks or becomes soiled from falling on the ground. The following slides outline improvements to our buildings and grounds. This is a picture of our Turkey Hill loading dock, which was repaired over the past spring. And the loading dock used to be a metal decking loading dock, but it had sustained damage due to rust over time and had to be removed. But when it was removed, the concrete portion that remained was on an angle. So when trucks were pulling in to load and unload, it was an unsafe situation because they couldn't come in on a square angle. So there was an addition put onto the loading dock to add 72 square feet. It's now square, makes it much easier to pull in squarely and much safer for loading and unloading. We added some bollards as a safety precaution as well, and we were able to repair the stairs immediately to the right of the loading dock where they were starting to crumble and some of the rebar was showing through. Also at Turkey Hill School, there was an existing Conval oil tank. All of our school boilers were switched to gas burners several years ago, and we no longer use oil. So we were fortunate enough to have a construction contractor remove the tank at no cost to the district. This removal included removing the piping that connected the tank to the building, hiring an environmental company to empty the remaining contents of the tank, and then lifting and hauling the tank away for us. Again, at no cost to the district. And at the end, here's a picture of where that tank used to be, and we're determining what we're going to do with that space. Updates have been made to several of our playgrounds to provide more access and inclusivity. Poured-in-place rubber has replaced the traditional playground chips. The poured-in-place rubber is a safer surface, provides much more accessible transitions to the playground and the equipment. It's also very durable, lasts much longer than the playground chips. We've also added multiple pieces of equipment with ramps and platforms that provide greater accessibility for all of our students. The pictures you're seeing here, Turkey Hill School and Racebrook School. This is Mary L. Tracy and a little bit more of Racebrook School. To date, these upgrades have been completed at Mary L. Tracy, Racebrook School, and Turkey Hill School. The plan is to install the poured-in-place rubber and inclusive playground equipment at Peck Place School next. The following slide outlines work that has been completed now to prepare the playground for similar updates at Peck Place. At the rear of the Peck Place playground, you can see here there's a culvert, a drainage culvert that had become overgrown. It was clogged with leaf litter, fallen branches, limbs. Trees had overgrown, and there were some unsafe limbs hanging over towards the playground, and water was not draining sufficiently. So work was done this summer to trim back the trees, clean out the drainage culvert, add some new stone, and planting grass. It's now going to be much easier to maintain from season to season and allow water to drain away from the playground, hopefully preparing us to do those updates next year to the Peck Place playground. And you can see a good before and after here where the drainage is not happening at all. And then this is the after of what it looks like. We recently had some masonry projects completed that were funded through the town in conjunction with projects currently being completed at Case Memorial Library and the High Plains Community Center. The scope of the work for the schools included here at MLT, where repair of the front masonry wall was conducted, repair of several sections of front sidewalk, and repair of the stairs and railing on the side of the gymnasium. These were completely demolished and reformed and concrete poured. Those of you on the board who come in once a month or sometimes more for subcommittee meetings might remember the end of this wall was completely gone. It had crumbled and fallen apart. That whole wall has been repaired. The front of the wall was bowing out because water was getting behind it. That has been repaired. And then these two pads of the concrete sidewalk were actually pitched the wrong way towards the wall, and water, that's how it was migrating down behind the wall. Those have since been repaired and pitched toward the garden to keep the water from going into the wall. We also had repairs at Racebrook School, and the work included the repair of the landing and stairs at the cafeteria loading dock entrance. This set of stairs had again fallen under disrepair, and it's a very highly traveled area, especially in drop-off and pickup time. And in the afternoons for our 21st Century program, this is the main stairway to get to our 21st Century program. Just to summarize, I want to go back to the goals that we use as our guidance as we do our jobs in the facilities department, and that is first and foremost to maintain a safe learning environment for our students, our staff, and visitors to the building, using our resources effectively and efficiently, establishing an effective preventive maintenance program, and developing capital plan needs. And that concludes my facilities update.
Questions for Mr. Gray on facilities? Susan?
Question. I have, thank you for making sure all that was done at Mariel. To me, it's the first school that most of our parents see, the first time they're going there, and it did not represent who we are. So,
Right.
And I think it looks fantastic. Thank you.
Betty, did you have a comment?
For overseeing all of the facilities so well and so astutely. We appreciate it very much, and I know our parents and our families and our students are very happy about it.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Dr. Russo?
Good evening. It's a pleasure to see some of our audience tonight. Thank you for being here. As Dr. Scarpetti said, I'm going to report on our PDEC committee meeting. And so PDEC stands for Professional Development Evaluation Committee. We have teachers from each school representing our staff coming together to provide feedback on proposed plans for the year. And so at our last meeting on September 9th, we discussed the teacher evaluation flexibility, a new assessment added to our menu of assessments, and also some professional learning topics for the election day upcoming professional learning session. So with respect to the Connecticut State Department of Education teacher evaluation flexibility. The members discussed each of the possible student goal options. So rather than just selecting one goal option with 2 indicators, members expressed interest in providing staff with choices. So the choices for the student goals this year would be social and emotional learning, student engagement, engaging families, cultural responsiveness, and academic achievement. And the PDEC members recommended that teachers prioritize a goal for their choice for reporting on TEVAL. And TEVAL just stands for Teacher Evaluation, which is our system on an electronic digital platform that we use that's called Talent Ed. And so even though we're only prioritizing one goal, as a district, we do guarantee that we engage in social emotional learning and we address academics through our curriculum and our SRBI process, or our scientific research-based intervention process or instruction, regardless of a chosen TEVAL goal. Just like we do with report cards. We guarantee to teach and assess all standards for each grade level, but we prioritize certain standards for reporting. So with respect to RULER, and for those of you who this acronym is new, RULER stands for Recognizing, Understanding, Labeling, Expressing, and Regulating Emotions. That's our approach to social emotional learning. The PDEC members agreed that we should finish the work that we started pre-COVID, and so we have 2 more tools to learn about. The meta moment, pretty much stopping and visualizing your best self before acting, and the meta moment and the blueprint, which is a way of handling conflict and achieving resolution. With respect to assessment, PDEC agreed to replace the current DIBELS assessment with subtests from the new DIBELS 8th edition. And DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. In addition, it is one of the few dyslexia screeners, and unlike our STAR assessment, each teacher can hear and assess how every child reads the same passage and comprehends it in comparison to peers, and then compared to oral reading fluency norms. Training was provided by our own reading consultants on September 15th at home schools. Dr. Scarpetti and I had the pleasure of joining Mrs. Lasto with the PEC teachers, and we had a really good time. We enjoyed their discussions, their fascinations with the measurement, their questions, and we're just really proud of our staff and how they engage in all the work. Currently, we are engaging in discussions with the participants of that session at the other schools, and we do plan to follow up with questions that teachers had about that. With respect to Election Day professional learning focus, the PDEC members were eager to get back to our curriculum work, specifically the operational curriculum. We've done a lot of work with the intended curriculum, our cunning plan, if you will, but now we really want to focus, especially after COVID, on what we actually do, the day-to-day operation, and capturing that for our data reports. We started the planning for that election day today because we respect our teachers. We want to make sure that we provide the most meaningful sessions for them. Teachers will continue to provide feedback to their PDEC members to share with committee members prior to meetings, so all are represented. Our next PDEC meeting is January 18th from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. We'd also like to report that we have created a model for learning during quarantine. This is a work in process. It involves asynchronous learning with live check-ins. And basically the difference between synchronous and asynchronous is that the teaching is live and synchronous at a set time. And finally, oh, and we will have, we'll discuss details about all of that with our curriculum subcommittee next week, and then Mr. Ziman will report on that at the following board meeting. And finally, we would also like to share that we will be discussing with the curriculum subcommittee proposed new LEAP criteria, and LEAP stands for Learning Enrichment Activities Program. And we'll also be talking about how the criteria aligns to our program. And that's about it. That ends my report, Mr. Kraut.
Very good. Any questions for Dr. Russo? Betty?
Thank you, Dr. Russo. I just have one question about the DIBELS assessment. Is that for all grades? Is it primary? Is everyone doing this new assessment?
So grades 1 through 6, we will engage in the oral reading fluency. That 1-minute measure is equivalent to the results of looking at a brain scan. So we learn a lot from that in a minute. We basically see who can pull off reading a passage and looking at the norms of the oral reading fluency, how you can recognize those words on sight. For grades 1 through 3, we are going to rely on the nonsense word assessment. We don't teach nonsense words, but we do use them to see who has generalized the 6 patterns of the English language, because all words are made up of those basic 6 patterns and then combinations of those patterns. And then in the oral reading fluency, you really see who can recognize on sight those multisyllabic words once they understand, the within word. We do have the phoneme segmenting fluency subtest for first grade, because that tells us who can process the sounds in the spoken words. And so we've created a decision tree based on that oral reading fluency. We don't use the composite score. We just look at very specific subtests to target our instruction and to let us know if we need to dig deeper and diagnose further. My pleasure.
Mr. Flynn?
Thank you, Dr. Russo. I do want to just thank you, because I think the social emotional piece that you mentioned with the ruler program is just a really important thing for the kids at this particular time in the country. And I also want to thank you for re-examining the LEAP criteria. I think it's a very valuable program, but I also think it's a little heavy on standardized testing and its criteria, so I hope a little imagination can be explored there, so thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. We're looking forward to that discussion at the subcommittee meeting.
Anyone else for Dr. Russo? Mr. Ziman?
I'd just like to point out that this is built on the previous teacher evaluation that was started a few years ago, I believe, and it's the envy of teachers everywhere, because it was not a top-down process. Teachers were very involved in this, and all it's there for is to help them become better at what they do. So,
Go ahead, Mr. Vitale.
Have Mr. Flynn explain his question. It was about LEAP criteria. Is it the criteria for evaluating the children, a criteria for meeting a curriculum? What criteria were you both referring to?
Standing is correct. The LEAP program is what may have been previously called the Talented and Gifted program. And an abundant factor in that, I believe, is the COGAT test. And I believe it may only be the primary determining factor from not. So if you don't get a certain score, you're eliminated from consideration despite perhaps other significant talents and abilities. So I welcome a discussion to perhaps broaden the horizons, because there's, I think, a variety of ways to show talent.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
And
That
then-
answers my question, Dr. Russo, but if you'd like to expound on it, that'd be great.
And then the other piece that we want to keep in mind is that the criteria should align with the type of program that you develop or that you have. And so we'll be looking at that.
Anyone else for Dr. Russo? Go ahead, Susan.
You had said you were going to align it to the curriculum. I know at one point there was some concern about overlap of if they were in LEAP, they might be doing something that they may be doing in a regular classroom in a grade or two above. We're going to redo something like that, or at least discuss it, correct?
And I think if we think about pathways, because as Mr. Flynn said, there are all different types of giftedness or not just like aptitude, but developing different areas. And so the program and the paths may all be different. So we have to decide, well, this particular program, what are we looking to develop? What criteria would align with that? But that's not to say that, as you said, in our curriculum, we want to be able to be even more inclusive.
Anyone else? Very good. Thank you, Dr. Russo. Okay, so we will move on to board business. We need to consider an act on the 2022 Orange Board of Education meeting dates. I assume you all have reviewed the dates. Do I have a motion to accept the 2022 Orange Board of Education meeting dates as presented? Mr. Ziman, do I have a second? Carmen? Any discussion on the dates? Go ahead, Betty.
I was just going to ask about the December 19th meeting, if everyone is amenable to that. I mean, I'm fine, but I wanted to be sensitive to people who may be celebrating that day.
That's a good question. The first night of Hanukkah, would our meeting be taking place after sundown on Hanukkah? Is that correct? All right.
Going to suggest that we have it on the Tuesday, as we've done on some other days when
Yeah.
Monday is. So that's just a suggestion.
That's fine. Are the kids in that day? They are. Okay. That's something to consider. Anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Simon. No? Anyone else on that?
Because of parent participation and other, not just.
No,
our
I
side.
understand, Betty. That's a good point. All right. Yeah, I have some concerns with that myself. Thank you for bringing it out. I didn't pick up on that. Is that something that we can look at for that following Tuesday? Not the following Tuesday. Yeah, it would be the following Tuesday, the 20th? Following day, yep. Yeah, because it's sundown to sundown, correct? No?
Basically, we like the menorah, we're done.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So Tuesday would be fine. Okay. The 20th. Any further discussion on that? I don't see a reason why we shouldn't move it to the following Tuesday. Try to accommodate as many people as we possibly can, and that's a valid point. Anyone who may want to come in for public participation or even watch our great show wouldn't be able to do so. We would need to, we have a motion on the floor, correct?
Hold on, I have a question though. For those people who are celebrating Hanukkah, wouldn't the second night be just as significant as the first night? Like to avoid Hanukkah, we would need to move a week. I know you can't see my mouth moving.
That's why I was asking about
So to
Tuesday.
avoid Hanukkah, we'd have to move a week earlier because the second night of Hanukkah would be the same.
All right, so move it to the 12th? Okay. No, that's not a,
Hanukkah's from the 18th to the 26th. I don't think we've ever in the past had a meeting scheduled that was not allowed because it fell within that time frame. I do understand the first evening of the 18th being of significance, but other than that, if the past is any assistance in this regard, we have never not had a meeting during the period of Hanukkah before. So 18th to the 26th is the period of Hanukkah. The 19th is a Tuesday. We could probably go ahead with that unless we hear otherwise.
the 18th through the 26th?
Correct.
Okay.
Is the 18th through the 26th. It's on the 4th. Meeting scheduled during Hanukkah this year.
What we have to do is we have a motion to accept the calendar as presented. So, any further discussion? Mary, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. So, as it stands right now, that is December 19th is on that meeting date. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Do you get that, Mary? Okay. What did you get there for the count? Okay, so the calendar's approved. Thank you.
Chair, if I could note that if there is a problem, we could always decide at a later date to change December if we want to.
It's true, we've done that in the past for any number of reasons.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
One point to note, if we decide to ultimately have it earlier, it may be an issue. Well, no, because there's no, never mind. I was going to say, if there were new board members coming on, they'd have to be sworn in before then, which is sometimes a challenge. But it's not an election year, so forget what I just said.
Point of order, Chairman Crowder, I believe the motion's passed, and any discussion as to potential issues is moot at this point. Can we move on?
We are moving on, Counselor.
Thank you.
Policy first reads, we have 5 of them. Policy first read, Orange Board of Ed, 3280, gift, grants, and bequests. These are first reads. Policy first read, Orange Board of Education, 3313, relations with vendors. Policy first read, Orange Board of Education, 3324, ordering goods and services. Policy first read, Orange Board of Education, 3515, community use of school facilities. And policy first read, Orange Board of Education, 3524.1, pesticide application policies. We will be looking for a motion to accept to bring these to the board in the October meeting. All right, so they're first reads, so review them if you will, please. All right, I will be looking for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the next 3 agenda items after the standing committees and ACES each give their reports. Discussion and possible action regarding parent requests pursuant to Connecticut Statute Section 10-15C. Discussion and possible action on successor custodian contract. Discussion and possible action on evaluation and performance of the superintendent. We are moving on to standing committees. Ms. Riccio, Finance.
Finance met prior to this meeting. We discussed the current financials. Everything was in order. We discussed cafeteria. The numbers for cafeteria are significantly up than prior year, getting closer to what we normally have, which is very encouraging. 21st Century's numbers also are up, which is good. And that's it. Questions?
It's from Ms. Riccio. Personnel Transportation, Mrs. Brow.
So the committee continues its work on policies. Most of the policies before you for the first read are policies that really just relate to adding regulations or minor wording change. The only one that really had a significant discussion because of substantive issues is the policy related to community use of school facilities. I think the biggest change that you'll see is that the board, the subcommittee did recommend that security must be present when outside organizations use the building. And if security must be present, then that means it must be paid for. So figuring out who will bear that cost, and it shouldn't really be the school board, will be a little bit challenging, or may be challenging. We might be surprised, and will involve some discussions with the town. The subcommittee did reinforce a commitment to the language that opens that policy, that it shall be the policy of the Board of Education to encourage the community use of school buildings, but we must do so in a safe way. So when you do take a look at those, you'll notice that the regulation for that one is included, and that CABE did acknowledge we don't normally intend to give you the regulations, but it really will outline for you what we have been doing, and CABE did comment on how thorough our regulation is in that area. We don't need to vote on the regulation, it's more there for you to see what we're currently doing.
Any questions for Mrs. Brow? Very well. Buildings, grounds, safety, Mr. Flynn?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you and your families are well. Buildings and Grounds met earlier this afternoon, and our main course of business was to discuss possible actions on adopting and recommending to the Greater Board of Ed to consider in October our Orange Preventive Maintenance Plan as our Buildings and Grounds long-term goal. Board members may remember earlier in the year, each subcommittee was tasked with building a long-term goal with the dissolution of the ad hoc long-term planning committee. Our committee did vote to recommend to you for your consideration at a future meeting, hopefully in October, to adopt this plan. It's over 27 pages in its current incarnation, and it is intended to be a living and breathing document. A couple of highlights from some of its goals. Without a reliable planned maintenance program and a scheduled preventative maintenance plan, school district cannot maintain its facilities. The uniqueness, exception for intense and use and wear and tear throughout the school year. It includes a variety of factors, including organizational leadership flow chart for monitoring our buildings and grounds, followed by responsibilities. It also includes the priority chart that Mr. Gray shared in his presentation, ranging from emergencies, safeties, preventative maintenance, reactive maintenance, and event support. One of the main philosophies of our new and hopefully to be considered in this plan is really shifting the pendulum from a majority of reactive maintenance to preventive maintenance and scheduled repairs and updates as things lose their useful life. The plan includes a variety of both short and long-term goals for evaluating the needs of the buildings and grounds of the districts. For example, some maintenance is on an annual basis, such as elevator inspections. Fire systems are quarterly. Another example from page 9 of Mr. Gray's document, just from the itemizes things such as the daily schedule for custodians, as well as their monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, twice a year, and once a year duties to maintain the schools. It also includes a range for capital planning from 3 to 5 years to take a look at as some of our current equipment and maintenance is depreciated or loses its life, to build that into a budget. Similar to the work that Mr. Allring has done with technology, where we sort of schedule that in as to have avoid kind of an apocalyptic mess if something were to go wrong. The plan also includes professional development. Mr. Gray mentioned our very hardworking staff that has kept our schools open. And it includes opportunities for both training and cross-training around a variety of skills for them. Mr. Gray has helped really increase, and it's reflective in his plan, communicating with other town departments, including but not limited to the Department of Public Works, the Building Department, the Fire Department, and the police. So the larger board will see the current draft prior, I hope, to our next meeting, and it was a recommendation of our subcommittee to adopt it as our long-term goal. At our June meeting, we had scheduled an August 23rd walkthrough available in lieu of a formal meeting. Mr. Gray and Dr. Scarpetti took us through all 4 schools, along with Chairman Kraut, as we saw the schools being prepared just days ahead of the students arriving. And once again, it's both as a chairman and as also a parent and taxpayer, it was very reassuring to see the scope and follow-through that has prepared the schools. I think it's no small accomplishment that a second year in a row, a very small town has again in-person full instruction learning. I think it was a hallmark of town cooperation, and I appreciate the efforts of Dr. Scarpetti and Mr. Gray and his team in getting our school open and ready. Chicago wasn't open, New York wasn't open, Orange was open last year and it's open again this year. So I was really pleased and very confident, and frankly, as a dad, just assured that the students would be going into a safe environment. So I thank the superintendent and Chairman Kraut and Mr. Gray for making time and attending that tour on the 23rd as well. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Flynn? No? Thank you. Mr. Ziman?
We met after the always exciting first day of school, pleasantly familiar and uneventful, save for a wasp's nest. The nest was uncovered by some of the parents at Mary L. Tracy taking pictures of the children attending their first day of school. This resulted in a few parents suffering 1 or more stings and a call for an ambulance, though fortunately it wasn't needed. The nest was in the garden by the entrance and was, of course, removed. As we did last year, school began with 2 early dismissal days. These are welcomed by both the staff and the students, all of whom appreciated the extra time to adjust. For teachers, school began on August 26th, which really means for many teachers, one way or another, it begins August 1st. At least it did for me. The August 26th and 27th professional planning session topics included math practices featuring Greg Tang resources and the next phase of Ruler, a continuation of the social and emotional work that has been ongoing. I did hear a superintendent announce that this year they were going to be addressing the social and emotional health of the students and how it impacts their education. As we hear more and more districts acknowledging the need to address this and how it affects education, it's important to remember that this has been a focus of the Orange school system, and we are now on our 3rd year. This year, rather than focusing solely on formal, planned professional development topics, there were time for the teachers to review and prepare lessons in grade-level teams, as well as to engage in final classroom preparations. Mr. Chairman, I don't think people understand how much time teachers spend in classroom preparations, just the physical preparations. This is only in elementary classrooms. My wife and I, as elementary teachers, with apologies to high school and junior high school teachers, were often amazed when we went for our children's report card conferences and noted that sometimes it looked like the teachers simply arrived that first day with the children. This wasn't meant as a value judgment, just an acknowledgement of how the teaching experiences are different. So don't hate me, Charles. Anyway, elementary teachers spend hours, mostly on their own time, making classrooms look attractive, inviting, and helpful. And that's why the extra time the teachers were given to work in their rooms, I'm sure, was fully appreciated. The other topic we discussed at the meeting was the fact that following the state recommendation, we have put aside the SBA scores and are using the STAR results as our universal screening for this year. And that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Ziman? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ziman. ACES report, Ms. Riccio.
So I have a little bit to discuss with you from ACES. I'll try to make it as brief as I can. As you all know, ACES moved one of their magnet schools from Thomas Edison in Meriden to Chase Collegiate. They purchased the Chase Collegiate property, and it is beautiful. It is for 6th to 8th graders currently. The plan is to add another grade. Anyone in Orange, if they wanted to go, can reach out to Chase Collegiate for middle, in essence, middle school, and ultimately to high school. So because we're part of the Regional Educational Service Unit of ACES, our children could go there if they wanted to. So we had the ribbon cutting on August 30th here, and then we had the convocation, which was at Oakdale on the 31st, when the guest speaker, the keynote speaker was Dr. William Pettit. And he was talking about, survival and how when trauma happens, how do you react? And the teachers felt it was very good, as did all the staff. And there was a lot of things about employee recognition and all that. So that was kind of a cool thing to participate in. I went to both of these items. Just as a quick reminder, ACES has schools, so Magnet Schools, Educational Center for the Arts, which is for high school students. ACES at Chase, which was formerly Thomas Edison. And their third magnet school is ACES Wintergreen Interdistrict Magnet School. Those are, Chase is a STEAM school, Wintergreen is a STEM school. And then we have special ed schools as well, ACES Mill Elementary, Mill Academy, Whitney High School North, Whitney Academy, and Create, ACES Center for Autism Spectrum and Developmental Disorders, Village School, EIBI, Mead Elementary, which is in Ansonia. There's a new program at ACES at Ansonia Middle School, which provides them with extra support so that they can be in the least restrictive environment and allowed to participate. And then there's also programs, the West Haven Collaborative, both at a high school level as well as at 2 elementary schools. There's Urban Youth, there's Aspire. We also have Early Head Start in Middlesex, Early Head Start. And there's another one, I don't have it written down, I'm sorry. Oh, in Portland, sorry. One in Middletown, one in Portland. And then there's Regions, which is for incarcerated youth in Hartford and in Hamden right now. So just a heads up on that. They also have quite a few openings. So for, if people are looking for work, always looking for bus drivers. They were looking for a few teachers, some physical therapists. There's a lot. If you want to go onto the ACES website, take a look. I know people are always looking for different things. So we had actually an in-person meeting, first in-person meeting in a while, which was nice. And we are almost ready to have ACES to have their audit for the 2021 school year, which is big. It's really early. So I was very happy about that because I also chair finance there too. But that's everything. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Riccio? No? Okay. So I'm going to be looking for a motion to enter into executive session for agenda items 7, 8, and 9. I also would like to invite Mr. and Mrs. Marudas. Would you like to attend executive session? Yes. Dr. Scarpetti? Yes. Principal Lasto? Yes. And Counselor Sedor? Can it?
Through virtual.
Okay, so you confirm that?
I will right now, sir.
Thank you.
You want a motion?
Let's make sure that Counselor Sedor is coming.
I've been texting, but let me call just this quick second. It's okay with you, Mr. Crowe.
All right, did you speak with him earlier about this? All right, let's assume he's going to be here.
Yes.
Very well. So I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session for agenda items 7, 8, and 9. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Hadlock, do I have a second? Mr. Zyman? Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? All right, we are now in executive session. Thank you, so we are back. Okay, so I have a motion. I am looking for a motion that the Orange Board of Education hereby approves the request of the parents as discussed in executive session to permit their child to enroll in the Orange Public Schools prior to the age of 5 in accordance with the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-15C. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Christian and Carmen? Any further discussion on this matter? All in favor? Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. Hold your hands up, please. Again. Opposed? And you got Ken down here? Abstain? Very well. The motion passes. Do I have a motion that the Board of Education hereby moves to provide funding for, to the otherwise accept, approve the tentative agreement between the Board of Education and Custodians Union for a successor collective bargaining agreement for the period of July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2024? Do I have a motion? Carmen? Ken seconds. Yes. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very well. Passes. I am looking for, you all set, Susan? I am looking for a motion to adjourn. Susan? Ken? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? We are adjourned at 10:11. Thank you.